Tanaka's head snakes around the corner, its long serpentine body curling, ready to strike. He says, "I hear your incantations, wizard. Oh, I hear them and I remember them, and I know your master." Or let's try. The young elven woman brings your items to the front counter, her hand lightly touching your forearm, and she looks down with a forlorn look in her eye. She looks back up at you and says, "My sister, you remind me of my sister. She had forearms like yours, corded, a warrior, a swordswoman. But alas, a different path has been chosen for my life," as she looks over her shoulder at her father, getting together more items for customers. Or maybe you're in the dark and a troll stalks amongst the subterranean landscape. And he says, "Yes, I smell the mother's milk on your lips. I know your kind. Like the scar on my face, your grandparents struck me, their burning axe buried deep into my face. Oh, I will not be satisfied until I suck the blood from the bones of your body." So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about making it personal. If you want to bring your world to life, make it personal. Bring up those little things that are personal and unique amongst your player characters to make not only your world seem more alive, but to bring it out in your players. Now, this was brought up. I had a different thing I was going to talk about today, but this was probably didn't mean to bring this up, but Grimchild from yesterday made a comment about making things personal. And so I thought I'd go off on that. So we're just going to talk about making it personal and how do we do that? Well, first of all, we can absolutely tug on those strings of a character's background. That's you need to do that. But sometimes that can be a little complicated in terms of incorporating that into a story, especially if you're doing a dungeon delve, right? Normally, if you're doing a dungeon delve, there aren't very many personal things involved. So how do you make things personal? Well, one thing is to use the senses. So have your NPCs, your monsters, your creatures, the people they interact with, make a comment about the physical characteristics of the player characters. Have an NPC kind of stare at the tiefling and go, "I once knew a stranger that had horns, ram's horns, similar to yours. He was very prideful, kept them clean, shiny. Didn't seem fearful to me at all. And I always found that strange. You remind me of him." You can have physical characteristics. Elise C, good morning. I will absolutely get back with you, Elise C. My Twitter account is temporarily suspended, and I kind of don't use Twitter much anymore. Getting involved in a ton of social media is very hectic and time consuming. But yeah, we'll get in touch. We will hook up on a panel, absolutely. But the other thing is using the physical characteristics of your players to kind of pat them on the back. And it doesn't necessarily mean email. Okay, you got it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, that it's mandatory that you mention all of their physical characteristics and say it in a positive tone. There could be an enemy that sees the blade of one of your player characters and feels offended by it because maybe that blade was handed down, from 10 generations of this knight, and now they're fighting a goblinoid horde, and the orc chieftain is like, "I know that blade because that blade killed my ancestor, so I'm going to come after you." Making a comment about the physical size and abilities of the characters. If your group is mature, talking about the potential sexual encounters with a player character, talk about their scars or how they dress. This will also give you an opportunity to mention that in one part of the world, maybe how they dress and act is not really a big deal, but if they go to some kind of a desert bazaar, maybe people look at them and think they're dressed kind of strangely. So yes, talking about their physical characteristics, and sometimes even pointing out the minutia, their eye color, the dirt under their nails, the powerful forearms of the warrior, the freshly healed scars of the barbarian, the tone of voice and incantations of the wizard, the holy symbol of the cleric, just mentioning the physical characteristics. But we don't have to stop there. We can talk about their personality, their background, in terms of where they've come from, their racial stock. You can be very basic, talking about a dwarf or elf, but you can talk about their skin tone. Oh, you must be from the desert lands. You must be from the northern, section. I smell swampman from you, those kind of things. You must be noble born. So mentioning those things in the world and having the NPCs bring those things out of your players, just little small parts will absolutely bring to life and make the player character feel like they are part of the world. And that player might feel a little bit, not just justified, but like, yeah, this is a great decision I made for my character. Whether someone mentions the breed of dragonborn, if they are in a dragonborn city, and someone mentions that their scales are ivory from a white dragon, as opposed to the black and green and gold scales of the people who live here in this particular city. So mentioning those things, but also sometimes how they smell. If they've just crawled themselves out of a sewer and fought some oozes in a Otiag or something, having people mention that too. How their demeanor, whether they seem like outsiders, whether they seem like they fit in, whether they are suspicious or paranoid, or whether they carry themselves in an arrogant manner. I hope I'm trying something new. I have a small fan nearby, so I hope you don't hear that. But it was annoying me to rub my face because of the heat coming from the light nearby, which I ended up getting an LED lamp. So I need to illuminate myself. And then I have got my camera and microphone and everything, and the computer's like right under me. So I think it's causing a little bit of like a static electrical charge nearby. So I'm trying something new. So I apologize if the sound is really off. Just let me know. But also pulling on the strings of someone's background. Again, like mentioned yesterday, again, you can make it personal without needing to find the answers to the question, right? So if an enemy mentions something like, I remember your grandfather and I'll slay you too, then you don't need to give the details of what that is. Think about current day television, right? Sometimes they will give you a hint as to someone's background or their family status or their work status without giving you the details associated with it. So you'll hear someone go, an actor will say, well, in the first season, I'm not very close to my family. And that's about it. And then the second season, they end up hiring someone, that person in that thing, the actor or actress that you're very familiar with, but you don't remember their name. And then they show up and go, oh, that's my sister. Well, in the first season, they never said this person had a sister or a brother. But in the second season, the actress is introduced as the sister. And, they mention, it's been a long time since you've been with family, or we've never gotten along because of that thing that happened back then. And they don't give any details. And then maybe in the second season, they reveal, a love interest that the the brother and the sister had, and it was like this triangle with this individual, and the love interest there's still a flame between the brother and the sister and this third party, and there's still some romantic sparks there, that kind of thing. So you can pull on the strings of someone's background without necessarily having to fill in all the gaps. You might also, when a player character gives you their background, you should make it apparent. Like for me, you give me your background, I'm allowed to touch any part of that. Don't give me details in your background that you want to be sacrosanct. And that doesn't necessarily mean that to go around killing all of the NPCs in someone's background. That's a little too extreme and too base, right? You want to create dynamic elements in someone's background. You want to give hints of corruption, or hints of jealousy, or despair, or love, or desires, disappearances, and questionable motives. And you want to pull on those things, and having them interact with the NPCs is great, especially like if you want to turn a very boring encounter into something awesome, pull on the background. I learned this trick not as a game master, but from a player. When I was a teenager, long time ago. When I was a teenager, I couldn't think of an idea. I was the game master often, and they were always like, "Hey, come on, let's have a game together." And it was always stressful trying to come up with new ideas. So I figured I'd come up with something after a base idea. You're walking down the road, bandits come out of the woodworks. They're like an orc raiders, and they want your stuff. And my friend, an avid movie watcher like myself, was like, after they came out, it's like, "Give me your gold," or something, 500 a piece, or something obscene like that. And he responds with, hey, now relax. I told you I'd have your money. We're going to the city over the mountain ridge. We're going to get your money. I know I owe your boss something. And he started into this storyline, pulled directly from Han Solo and his relationship with the agents of Jabba the Hutt. And he worked this thing. He was like, I know I owe you money. Let your boss know. So, and then we just vibed off of it. I was like, what the hell? For 2 seconds, and went, shit, yeah, this is where we're going to go. And come to find out, a couple of the orc raiders followed them to the city, and he convinced them to wait outside the city. And they went inside, and then one of the orc raiders actually snuck in over the wall. And it was this whole big song and dance about owing them money and trying to do a confidence scheme. And eventually they decided that they were going to rob the coffers of this his church, because the church elder was pretty much corrupt. And it was like a comedy of errors, and it was a great thing. So pulling on the strings, making it personal. Don't just have an enemy show up and just be the big bad. Have the enemy point out something in someone's background, whether it's a faction they're connected to, whether it's their religion, whether it's their racial stock, whether it's the country they're from. Don't have an enemy dislike them because they're a dwarf. Have an enemy dislike them because they're from this specific dwarven hole that exiled them from the caverns underneath the silver mines. Don't just say, "Oh, you're a knight and I hate you." Point out, a knight harmed me or killed my mentor, and I'm going to take revenge on you specifically, and all of you, the knighthood that you represent. And it doesn't necessarily have to be evil either, right? Let's say they encounter a sphinx, and the sphinx is like, oh, the gnomish warlock shows up, and the sphinx is like, I smell the elder one from you. I will not, prevent your passage by. The elder gods will arrive here, and you are their emissary. And the sphinx maybe bows to the gnomish warlock or something like that, that's got a patron of an elder god or whatever. Having those things, how can I explain this? There are no rules for it, but you can have an NPC or a monster notice a detail about the character that may be ephemeral, that may be unseen. So smelling the arcane energies from someone, or noticing the shadow of an elder god hanging over someone's head, or um, witnessing the necromantic spirits that surround someone's head, and the dark touch that they have, or an oracle that senses someone's path in life, or the omens that surround them, also allow you to pull on those strings and make it personal. The blind young girl in the marketplace that goes up to the brutal evil character and says something about, you carry the dead with you, or I see you and you're covered in blood, and then walks away or something, can also be a little bit jarring, and can also lead to these weird, if your player characters are into it, weird, not moral quandaries, but to think into themselves. There's a game called Within the Ring of Fire. I suggest checking it out. Designed by Andrew Wood, the main man himself, the barbarian horde and such. And Within the Ring of Fire, the very beginning of the book talks about role playing and giving energy. And one of the parts within the role playing, he suggests, and I don't know why no one else has put this in there, it's called the soliloquy. Now, I do know that there are some people who can take this too far, right? Just as there are people they call murder hobos, there are some people that are just they just I guess you could call them drama queens, right? They just want to they want to talk about themselves and put themselves on a pedestal and bring out their acting chops and just like suck up the spotlight. Okay, so I'm not talking about that. You can take it too far, but sometimes you want to reveal an inner monologue of your player characters, and maybe even an inner monologue of an NPC, something you can't see, but you want to reveal this information. And so if you're a player character and you want to reveal particular details, you can go into a soliloquy, which is like, as your character is sitting in front of the fire and just staring into the fire, you start to describe their inner thoughts, their inner fears, their desires, ruminating over what happened during that day. And as a game master, I've used this technique plenty of times for NPCs. I've had the inner machinations of the bad guy spoken aloud so that people could read it like a cutscene in a video game or a movie. And even though, in practical terms, the player characters would never, ever hear an inner monologue from the bad guy or the lieutenants or the minions, it revealed a part of the world like a movie, and I like to game master like movies. And some of them would reveal things about their personal opinion about the player characters, whether they, the player characters fight off the goblinoid horde goes and retreats, and then before the game ends, I do a little soliloquy as, one of the goblin horde is like, they are brave and wondrous fighters and adventurers. I wish I was like them. Maybe if they return, I would beseech them that I would like to go with them, or something like that, and then end the game. And although you're probably thinking to yourself, well, no one would have that information, but I'm giving away like metagamey information so that the next time they maybe encounter the goblinoid horde, maybe they might think twice about just killing them all. And when one of them comes up to them and decides to surrender or whatever, they may think twice about killing it, because I've placed in their heads a desire to want to see maybe a different outcome. And then that would get them to pause and go, well, you know what, maybe we should think twice about this. And maybe this goblin wants to go along with them. And sure, the goblin might be evil, but sees the the faith of the cleric in the group and wants to follow along with it, or the lizard folk are impressed with the valor of the dragonborn and they feel a kinship, and so they want to not just fight the dragonborn, but have a like an arena type conflict with the dragonborn, and feel that, you know, if the dragonborn defeats our greatest warrior, we will go along with follow along with the dragonborn and will be here as an ally, or maybe even not even an ally, but a form of information in this part of the world later on. So yes, make it personal. Pull on the strings of their background. You don't need to answer the entire history of any NPC you put in their background. Again, just throw in a little nugget or two. Your players will appreciate it. And at a minimum, have people act and react on the player characters, whether it's how they look, how they dress, how they sound, their behavior, where they're from, the earring in the ear of the elf, the specific braids in the beard of the dwarf, and comparing that to other dwarves, the amount of silver that the gnome drops down on the counter and someone mentions it, the cut of someone's jib, you know, just mentioning the physical characteristics, their behavior, how they smell, the sound of someone's voice, whether it's melodic, whether someone is intimidating in their presence, and then even flipping the script, right? The half-orc barbarian that is very intimidating, having a child be enamored with and not afraid of the barbarian, you know, the tiefling warlock who's got, you know, the elder god patron, someone who seems dark and seems to be attracted to them and wants to, you know, get to know them a little better on a intimate side, you know, flipping the script on that, or having a fellow wizard pass them and pass another wizard in the street and give that little chin nod, like, sup, yeah, you know, sup, I'm with you, you know, we're in that brother and sisterhood, sup, you know, that kind of thing, where it's not even having a conversation, but like kindred spirits of sorts, that kind of thing. So anyway, this one's one of my shorter videos. It's going to be less than a half an hour. So you guys, if those who are watching or who see this video, now's my time to do a little self-promotion. If you join Critical Hit Publishing on Facebook, you will have access to a free download. We have ourselves adventure keys, and we will be releasing them on a regular basis. Adventure keys are like 3 to 4 page adventures, agnostic enough to fit into your setting, but they have options with them. So we have NPCs, locations, creatures, changes, trappings such as locations, story hooks, and all of that in 3 or 4 pages, well laid out. Check us out on DriveThruRPG under Critical Hit Publishing. All that will be listed below in the details soon to come. And check us out on, join us on Facebook at Critical Hit Publishing, and you can get a free download. So those who are members can just download it and take a look at it. Please, please, please review it, respond, make a video about it. We don't care, but we love the feedback. We'd like to know what you think about it. Also, we will be having a new release of Plains and Grasslands, a book that's probably going to be crest the 60-page count of taking the most boring landscape in role playing, which is the plains. Oh, sure thing. Thanks, Elise. Thank you. Appreciate that. And a great way to contact me or PM me directly if you need to, whatever. I'll respond. But anyway, yeah, you get a free download. And but anyway, our next release in our cinematic environs, which is my brainchild, my baby, is plains, and taking that and making it exciting, turning that landscape, which is pretty much flyover country, hand wave country, and pulling out of it the great hazards and things that will enhance your gaming experience, so that yes, having that long wagon train trek across the flat plains is not just boring, it is exciting and will fill your world. So I am DBJ, Davabrian Jackson. Oh, one last thing. Nerdarchy. If you are a fan of Nerdarchy and you're someone who really wanted to join their Patreon and get their Patreon rewards, I would highly suggest you do that, because selfishly, we at Critical Hit have created for them one of their Patreon rewards, which is a 16, 17-page adventure known as the Y Stone, a horror. And the Y Stone horror was based on a video Nerdarchy did about mutated trolls. And so they have a video out there. Maybe I'll put that in the links below. It is a review of, they reviewed our adventure that we did for them. So we are very proud of that as well. So I am a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. I've joined Alex and Rob. Alex is the layout artist. Rob is our editor. They are both excellent writers long before I joined them, but we are a triumvirate, and I just love giving back to the community. I don't get the game as much as I'd like to. So doing these live streams, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. I call it my demi-daily deep dive, because there will be some days I won't be able to do this. So I apologize ahead of time. But I do this before work. This is my way of this is my cup of coffee, talking to people, just giving back. So thank you very much. Elise C, do me a favor and at some point drop like a link or something so I can promote your Twitch channel or whatever it is that you have. Just drop a link below and let me know. If you are a content creator and you are part of my live stream, I'll give you a shout out. Maybe we can hook up. It's my desire that many of us that are content creators, whether you're meaning content creator, YouTube channels, you're writing books, you've got Twitch channels, you're big on Twitter, anything like that. Prue, what's going on? Love to have you. So if you're a content creator of any type, or you have a desire to do those things, what's the term? Let's see if I can modify it. It is I reach out to those who help themselves. If you're struggling to get some subscribers or something like that, hook up with me. I would like to create a web, a network of other like-minded people. So do that as well. So anyway, thanks guys. I know this one's going to be a little bit shorter than my usual, but that's all right. I need to keep it below 10 minutes to bump up on the YouTube search engines or whatever, but I don't do that. I don't care. You guys, thank you very much. Today's topic was, of course, keeping it personal. So thank you guys. Have a very good day.